In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern. We have a lot to discuss in the tropics as the Atlantic is waking up very suddenly and unexpectedly for some. Obviously, we've been tracking some of our MDR, that stands for Main Development Region between Africa and Caribbean. We've been watching those regions for a week or two now, also off the East Coast and in the Gulf. We've been talking about those areas for maybe a month plus because of all these frontal boundaries we've had. It's been a very interesting season so far, a little slower, but things are waking up, unfortunately. So we're going to be discussing that. I think there's one or two concerning threats for the Gulf and East Coasts. We also see activity in the Eastern Pacific. So we're going to zoom in and talk about all of these things as well as just the overall temperature pattern where it feels amazing outside. I got out there and mowed my lawn and it wasn't miserable. I mean, that's just an accomplishment in itself. I mean, that was just incredible. I was like, I'm doing it today. I'm looking forward to it, matter of fact. So it was great being out there. We're also going to talk about the overall storminess around the nation because it is actually going to be quite active as well, non-tropics wise. So let's go ahead and zoom in and talk about the Atlantic and Pacific tropical systems. As we take a look at the Pacific real quickly, I know most of you are concerned about the Atlantic and we'll get into it in a second, but we do have Tropical Storm Henriette. They come up with crazy names for these guys. I don't know how to say that, so let me know in the comments how to pronounce that one. I struggle with some of them, especially the tropical names for some reason. And we do have a system right behind it a little further eastward, and this is a 30% chance of development over the next 2 days and an 80% chance of development over the next 7, giving it a high overall chance of development. And we can see as this GFS model run just kind of plays underneath that there is a really good shot that we do see this one actually develop here. So watch this kind of wave just come off of Central America there. And it doesn't really last too long on this model run, but we're going to take it very seriously. This has a high chance of development. We're just going to skirt over to the Atlantic real quickly, where we do now have Tropical Storm Dexter. So we've gotten to, what's that? Name number 4. I should have just looked at the bottom. It says advisory number 4. Am I tripping there? Does that... I think that means... No, I don't think that means that. I think that's the 4th advisory for this system. So coincidentally, kind of the same thing. I don't know. This video is off to a rough start, guys. Just forgive me. We do see this area off the East Coast, which, believe it or not, it sits at a 0% chance over the next 2 days and a 30% chance of, through the next 7 days. I think that this one actually will impact the East Coast in some shape or form, whether that's just, storminess overall, a tropical depression, tropical storm. I think that this one is going to impact states like South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, maybe even Florida and Georgia at the very least. This one has some pretty decent potential to be one of those classic tropical systems that's weaker, but kind of impacts the entire eastern seaboard as the flow kind of looks like this. So from Florida to Maine, this one could have some sort of impacts. We'll talk about that more on the European model run. But we also have this system here in the middle of the Atlantic, and we'll take a look at the risk level here, but this one has a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days. And this is always going to indicate that it's more of a long-range threat. There is a 50% chance, so the flip of a coin basically, over the next 7 days. And when we watch this GFS model run play out, I'll pause it right there. The storm system in there, this is by the 8th, so 4 days from now, it's moving through. It begins to develop there towards the end. This is the 10th. And then after that, it kind of just explodes north of the Bahamas. And we saw this yesterday where this system really wants to spin up. And thankfully on this model run, it gets kind of thrown off course and doesn't hit the East Coast. It comes awfully close. And I want to say it actually does hit southern Massachusetts there as some sort of system. It looks rather intense. I mean, here on the GFS model, I'd have to look at the winds, but this is clearly a hurricane to me, just from what we're seeing. I mean, you can even see the eye there. It's not 100% certain. Again, I'd have to look at the winds, but for sure, this is an intense tropical system that we're seeing outputted by the GFS model. And I actually want to kind of go over the course of some of the different model runs as well with you guys. Here's the 12Z. And we're going to see some stark differences. That East Coast one is impactful to similar areas every single time, but on this one, we see it move through the Bahamas, closer to Cuba. It goes through one of those sweet spots. This is my main area I call the sweet spot between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba. There's another one between Florida and Cuba there as well. It moves straight through there because land interaction breaks up these storms. If they manage to go straight through the areas of open waters, oftentimes that'll hinder kind of the breaking up of those systems. And this one, unfortunately, heads straight for New Orleans, or at least just to the west of it, maybe, as, again, probably a hurricane here. So some bad trends from Model 1 to Model 1, but we can see the difference. I mean, the 12Z takes it here. The 6Z takes it further north kind of the whole way through and takes it way up the East Coast. So if you were to try to come up with a cone for that, obviously that is a very wide variety of possibilities. So the main trend here is this model wants to show a rather intense system moving somewhere towards the United States, whether that's the Gulf Coast or the East Coast, unfortunately. I also want to play out the 6Z model run. This one went a little viral this morning amongst weather nerds, so I saw quite a bit of this. And we see this one is more similar to the now 18Z run, which is the more recent one that we watched it go up the East Coast. But on the 6Z run, it's a very intense hurricane. Again, clearly an I, which is going to be more indicative of a category 2 or 3, not just a 1 typically. And that strikes right into central South Carolina. So you're looking at 3 model runs in a row with really intense hurricane coming out of this particular invest, all striking vastly different areas. So again, that's why I say Texas to, coastal Canada, really Mexico to coastal Canada, maybe even, Central America to coastal Canada. Everybody needs to watch out because there's no telling where this one's going to go. But the current trend is a really intense system. So bad news overall. Now, we're going to move over to the European model, see what that one has to say. Basically, according, everything, the tropics, the storms, the temperatures, we're going to go over all of it. As we take a look at the overall storms, and we'll also see the tropics here, I'm going to take us straight towards tomorrow on Tuesday the 25th. And we do have a rather large area of activity over the southeast that's just going to sit stagnant. And we've been expecting this, but this potential closer to home tropical system that's going to be a little weaker is not going to help. I think this is going to add a significant amount of rain from Georgia up through Virginia, maybe even talking about the mid-Atlantic and northeast, getting some rainfall from this one as well. Flooding tends to be the main concern historically with these weaker tropical systems. Obviously, we know the intensity is based on winds, not precipitation, so that makes sense. But you're getting weaker winds. These can be huge rainmakers, though. Some tropical storms have just as much rainfall as some category 5 hurricanes. So again, and that's not storm surge, that's rainfall, of course, but definitely the rain impact or the rain aspect of it tends to vary a lot, irregardless of intensity. And we see heavy rainfall by Saturday into Sunday. That's the 9th into the 10th along North Carolina and Virginia here. We see a storm there in southern Canada that brings a cold front and some rather intense looking thunderstorms that could be severe weather. We see our tropical system now impacting southern New England and mid-Atlantic coastlines there with some heavier rainfall, but really North Carolina, Virginia looks like the area to expect the heaviest rainfall if this one does move this way. Tropical systems tend to have a little bit more of a mind of their own, so it gets a little tougher to predict. We do see at the very end of the model run a very intense hurricane moving into the Bahamas. So we now have a lot of, I'll kind of make an arrow, but we have a lot of model guidance suggesting major tropical systems are going to be a concern here as we're approaching and passing the midway point of August. Really, really bad look. Again, I've been doing this YouTube stuff, I think, for 7 or 8 years now, which is unbelievable. And some years are like this. This isn't super, super abnormal. A lot of the time we'll just see it like a light switch, almost unpredicted in some cases. Like this case, I feel like a lot of people were talking about how, there's probably not going to be a lot of activity throughout August. Even myself, I've probably said that a couple times because nothing could be seen. But I always make sure to mention that these things can change within the model run range, very, very quickly. And we've seen that take place just the last, 3 days. I think we've been talking about this crazy, crazy stuff. Total precipitation because of the tropical activity is through the roof for the southeast and for portions of the mid-Atlantic especially. And we even see that next tropical system that this model puts at the end of the model run. Again, take it with a grain of salt. This could be a threat from anywhere from south America all the way up to coastal Canada, or the Gulf Coast or the East Coast. We saw, I think, on the GFS model runs, Louisiana get hit, South Carolina get hit, and then Massachusetts get hit. So that's a huge variety of solutions in back to back to back model runs. Location is going to be really tricky, and we're going to have to narrow that down. Obviously, we have a ton of time, thankfully, but that is going to be something that we have to kind of investigate together, which I'm looking forward to. Obviously, these systems are devastating, but my favorite part about the weather is the investigation part of it and kind of just getting to the bottom of what's going to happen. And we're going to do that together. Northern Plains, Upper Midwest, still rather active. That's been the theme the whole summer. We see above average precipitation there, and then obviously for this southeast and mid-Atlantic coast area, maybe twice your average in some of these locations. And it could be worse than this, especially with the tropical system. So we're going to keep you updated on all of these things. Total snowfall, I'll show this again. We showed this the other day, but there is still some for the Northern Rockies expected. So a sign of the times, we've crested over the peak temperatures, and we're lowering now, and we're moving closer and closer to fall every single day. And this is just another sign that is on the way. Let's quickly take a look at the temperatures real quickly, because we are vastly below normal for a lot of these areas, especially the greens. And that is expected to last for a few more days, especially along the East Coast there, as you can see. This is by the 8th. We're still dealing with that. Even by the 11th, some of the Southeast has some below normal temperatures. And then after that, there's some big question marks as far as the model run is concerned. But right here is a good point to talk about this. But we have above average temperatures up and down the West Coast. That's a positive PNA. And it looks like this ensemble wants to bring cooler air again back into the central and eastern states around the 12th. But right after this point is when the models start to all separate with their opinions. An ensemble model, we use the mean average. So when they all separate with their opinions, we end up getting something that looks like the same every single day. And when I play this out, this is the 12th through the 18th. Weather doesn't work this way. We don't see things stay so stagnant. That's just so averaged out because the opinions get so far apart that we kind of just have to toss it out the window, as I like to say. So we'll continue to monitor this. I feel like we can go either direction for mid-August. So again, another thing, just like the tropics, where we have to wait a little bit to get to the bottom of it, but not too long. So stay tuned with us. We do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.